Welcome to the Cash Car Convert Podcast, episode number 37.
You're listening to the Cash Car Convert Podcast with James Kinson.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Cash Car Convert Podcast. My name is James Kinson and I am the Cash Car Convert, and this is the podcast where cash cars are cool and auto debt is dangerous to your financial future. I'm really excited about today's show. I'm going to talk to you about several different things today, and these are all things that are near and dear to my heart. So let me go ahead and get the first thing kicked off here. The first thing I want to do is give an update on a story that I shared with you back in the Cash Car Convert Podcast, episode number 12. And in that episode, I shared with you that I had some friends who were looking to trade in a vehicle that they had to buy a newer vehicle. And they were doing this for two reasons, and these aren't uncommon reasons in today's world. One of them was to get better gas mileage. The husband had a very long commute to get to his job. And the second reason was for an improved warranty. Their car was on the verge of being 10 years old, and they wanted to get something that was going to have a warranty on it. And their current vehicle needed some pretty significant repairs, about $1,800 worth of repairs. My wife and I stepped in, and we were going to buy the vehicle from them for more than the trade-in value that had been offered to them by the dealership, but still significantly less than what it was going to be worth in the market, even with the repairs that it was needed. The good news is they decided at that point that they were going to keep the car, not trade it in, and they wound up going to a mechanic and getting the repairs done, and they did spend $1,800 on the repairs, but the car's been working great for them ever since. So it's been a really positive story from just that perspective alone. But it took a turn a couple of weeks ago when the husband was laid off. Now he's got to find another job. And I thought about, as awful as it is that he was laid off, I know he'll find another job. He's a really good guy. He's smart. He works hard. So I know he's going to find something else. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. An entire division got laid off at this particular company. And so truly through no fault of his own, he doesn't have a job. Of all the things he has to be concerned about, getting another job, taking care of his family, and all those things, he doesn't have to worry about car payments. Now, I don't know what their car payments were going to be on this other vehicle. I'm going to guess they were going to be greater than $300 a month. So now he doesn't have to figure out how to come up with that money. Whether it was more or less than, it's sort of irrelevant. The point is, nobody's going to come and get that car if he can't make the payments on it. And he doesn't have to try to prioritize car payments over every other thing that he's doing because it's paid for. It's his. It's not going anywhere, and he can use it to find another job. So don't want to take too much time with that, but that's the reason this show exists. I want to help people build margin in their lives so that when those bad things happen, that you have one less thing to worry about. So I'm really pleased to kind of share that update. Sorry that I have to do it in this context. The fact that the car is running well for them, much as their mechanic predicted it would, is a testament to you need to think twice before you go make a trade. You need to think twice before you get rid of a vehicle just because you think it's not running well enough or because it's got a problem. So be sure and really consider all your options when you're thinking it's time to get another car. All right, next I want to talk about, you guys know I listen to podcasts a lot. Really love the medium of podcasting. And I listen to a lot of business podcasts, a lot of personal finance podcasts, and I've got a lot of really a lot of favorites out there. But I also listen to a lot of sermons. I personally go to Gateway Church in Southlake, Texas, and my wife and I are blessed to have Pastor Robert Morris, sharing messages with us week in and week out at that church. Pastor Morris has a way of really taking the Bible and the complexities that are in it and really tying things together very well and making it very easy to understand. So I always really appreciate that. Really always come away with something special in his messages. But I also listen to 3 sermons via podcast. And for those of you who aren't Christians, don't tune out just yet, because what I'm going to say here is that I get something different from each one of these. And I do get it from a Christian perspective, but I think people who would listen to these podcasts would get something out of them even if they weren't Christians. And the first one is Andy Stanley from North Point Church in Atlanta, Georgia. He shares a lot of wisdom about life in general. He talks about why you should have margin financially, talks about how important it is to raise your kids with proper values and to make sure that they respect themselves and each other. Really touches on some really great things. And one of the interesting things about his church and the way he shapes his messages is that it's a church for non-church people. So if you haven't checked out Andy Stanley at North Point Church, there's a podcast out there for that. And you can also check out his podcast, Your Move. It's a recap of some of his previous messages. And that's a really, really powerful messages. And he approaches it from a, what if you're not a Christian kind of a view. He really makes sure that he's not stepping on people's toes as he's sharing what he believes and why he believes it. And again, there's a lot of life lessons in there in general. The next one is Perry Noble from Newspring Church in South Carolina. Perry's not your typical pastor. He's going to tell you what's wrong with him, what's wrong with everything else going on in the church. But at the same time, he's also going to tell you that he's very passionate about people. He's very passionate about helping people. He's very passionate about leading people to God. And that's his mission, and that's his church's mission. And they're trying to build their church to be a 100,000 person church in the state of South Carolina. He's all about helping build the kingdom of God. But, he doesn't pretend for one moment that he's perfect or that any Christians are perfect. Just wonderful messages. So again, that's Newspring Church in South Carolina. Really strong messages there. Last but not least, I listen to Joel Osteen from Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas. And I do that because Joel's messages are always so uplifting. And what they do for me is they help me remember that no matter what I'm going through, it's temporary. There's something on the other side and that it's going to be better. And he always keeps me focused in that direction. So no matter what I'm going through, he always helps me come through and see that tomorrow's going to be a little brighter. So as you can see, each one of the sermons give me something a little different. And I really appreciate what each one gives to me and shares and brings into my life. So today I want to talk about one of the sermons I heard from Joel. Now in this sermon, Joel talks about why it's important to be a person of excellence. Now, if you're a Christian, it's really simple. You represent God in everything that you do, every day, all day long. So being a person of excellence is important to you because you want to represent God in the best way possible. If Christians did a better job of representing God and being people of excellence, we'd probably have a lot more churches and a lot more help for a lot more people. But if you're not a Christian, it's also still important because you don't represent God in your mind, but you certainly represent yourself. You represent your family, your city, your state, your country, whatever organizations you belong to, you represent them. And I think we can pretty much all agree that we would really like to represent ourselves and anybody else that we're representing with our best foot forward, putting our best selves out there. Think about that a little bit. How do you live your life? If people were to drive up to your house, is your lawn cared for? Is your house painted? If they walk in, is your house all cluttered? Is it? And I'm going to have to say that my wife and I have moved a couple of times in the last 2 years. And each time we haven't maybe decluttered as much as we would like with each move. We're working towards that. And my office in particular can become quite a mess with more piling than filing. But I'm working through that to try to get that into a better place. But that's the point is it's little things like that matter, right? So keeping your office clean, keeping your car clean, taking care of all the things that you're entrusted with. And it really goes beyond that also into the little things. When you're at a store and you're shopping, do you feel like you're entitled to park in the handicapped parking spot regardless of whether you're handicapped or not, just so you can have a closer walk? When you leave a store, do you return the shopping cart to the proper place or you just leave it somewhere out in the parking lot? If you see trash on the side of the road when you're out for a walk, or if you're in a parking lot, do you pick it up and throw it away? This particular sermon, when I heard it, it really resonated with me because it talked about all those kinds of things. And there are some of those kinds of things I've been convicted on in the past. So I've always felt compelled to make sure that I put shopping carts in the right place. It just really bothers me, to not do that. They can roll and hit another person's car. Somebody else has to do it. And it makes me wonder why maybe we think we're more important than somebody else. If other people can take the time to do it, why can't we? So for me, that's something I was convicted of a long time ago. And so therefore it's something that I always really strive to do. And if I can, I'll grab another one. If I'm passing one that's out there stray, I'll try to bring it back as well. So that's something that just for me is personal that I try to do and that I've been convicted about. Another thing is I like to go out for a walk. And when I go out for a walk, I happen to walk on a pretty busy street. And I'm always amazed at the amount of trash that winds up on the side of the road, whether it's, fast food bags of trash or, beer bottles or whatever it is. And I live in a nice area, a nice neighborhood. So it's not like, I'm in a part of town where people just don't care about the way things look. And yet when I'm out for a walk, I find all this trash. And I very often, if I've got, if it's where I can carry it, I will pick the trash up and carry it back and throw it away. And I don't say any of those things to say that makes me better than you, because it doesn't. We're all just people. And trust me, I make more mistakes in a day than most. But my point is that if all of us did those things, not only would we represent ourselves better as people of excellence, but how much better would our world be if we all just did the little things a little bit better and took care of each other a little bit more and realized that, hey, I've got time to put that shopping cart away. I've got time to pick up that stray soda can that somebody left in the parking lot when I'm on my way into a store. Help make the world a little bit better place. It was funny, Joel talked about 2 stories in his sermon related to himself that I really found interesting. The first one is his wife, Victoria. They have bottled water in their house, and then these big 5-gallon jugs of water. And so they have to be put onto the stand where the water can be dispensed. And Victoria likes to have everything really clean. So she washes those bottles down with soap and water before they're put in. Now Joel, knowing that the top has been sealed, thinks that's an unnecessary step. And they've had a few discussions about that. But at the end, he promised her that whenever he put them in, he would clean the bottles and then he would put them in the dispenser. Now, there was a time he opened the bottle, he's getting ready to put it on, and he realized he hasn't washed it. Now, nobody else is around. Nobody else is going to know that he did or didn't wash that bottle, but he's going to know. And if you're a Christian, God's going to know. So, if you commit to something, make sure that you do it. And it's important that you do it. In fact, I think at a level, it's more important that you do it when nobody's watching, because that's when our real character is revealed. It's not when we're out in public and people are watching and we know that they are. It's what we do when nobody's watching. And so that story really resonated with me, that, I have to be a person of excellence because I'm a person of excellence, not because people are watching. The next story he told, I thought was really funny. And that is, he went shopping at a store. And as he was putting groceries in the car, somehow one of the grocery bags got loose or a piece of trash from his car blew out and was blowing around the parking lot. And he thought to himself, this parking lot's already got a bunch of trash in it. Why do I need to go chase this thing? I'm running late. I'm in a hurry. I really don't have time. But instead, he decided, I really need to do it. I really need to just go pick it up. It's my problem. I'm the one that put the trash out there. So he ran around the parking lot, chasing this thing in the wind until he finally caught it and was able to bring it back to his vehicle. And as he got back to his vehicle, the lady rolled down the window in her car and said, "Hey, you're Joel Osteen." He said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "We watch you on TV all the time." He said, "Well, thank you very much for that." And she said, "We saw that trash come out of your car and we were watching you to see what you were going to do." And that's the thing, people. None of us know, even when we think we're in a private moment, who's watching us and what they're going to take away from it. But if you're a person of excellence all the time, then you're representing yourself in the best way possible all the time. So I'm going to encourage you to do that with the way you dress, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you use language. Make sure that you're representing your best self. Again, if you're a Christian, it's more important because we're all representing God. So make sure that we're representing him to the best of our ability, because, we're going to do a poor job of it anyway, but let's at least put our best foot forward. And if you're not a Christian, Do it for yourself, your organizations, the place you work. Make sure that you're representing them, yourself, your family, your city, your state, your country to the best of your ability. All of us should be proud of where we come from, what we do. And maybe, we come from, from a family perspective, a dysfunctional family. Well, that's the past. You can make a different decision today. And some of you may be thinking out there and listening, thinking, oh, James, that's very interesting. And this is all very well and good. But what in the world does this have to do with driving a cash car? Well, it's really about where your head is and what's important to you and how you define excellence. Do you define excellence as driving a new car? Or do you define excellence as taking care of your family? And you may think those things aren't mutually exclusive, but in a lot of situations they are. People are driving a new or newer car than they can really afford because they can afford the payments and therefore they think they can afford the car. But in reality, all they're doing is they're paying for that car with their retirement. They're paying for that car with their children's college education. In some cases where a family has significant money strains, they may be paying for that car with their marriage. Half of all marriages end in divorce, and the majority of those are over money. So I would encourage you to build some margin into your life. Try to be a bit more of a person of excellence. This brings me to my last topic of today's podcast, and that is how you see yourself. And I think this is tied to being a person of excellence because how you see yourself is going to be reflected back into the world. And if you have a poor self-image, then that's what's going to be reflected. And you may want to be a person of excellence. You may have a desire to be a person of excellence, but if you don't believe down in your heart that you can be, then you won't be, and that'll be reflected. I'm going to discuss, there's a book that was published in 1960 by a gentleman named Maxwell Maltz. And this book was called Psycho-Cybernetics. And it's really funny. I remember the first time I heard that title, I just thought, wow, that sounds like a really crazy title. But it's got a really interesting story in it, or really the whole thing. And what it basically talks about is how important self-perception or self-image is. Now, Dr. Maltz, you might think, given if you were to read the book, you might think that he was some kind of a psychologist or something, the way it starts with him talking about how important self-image is and how much it has to do with the way people interact with their world. It turns out really he was a plastic surgeon. And what Dr. Maltz found is that as he would fix people's appearance, whether it was a nose or a chin or ears or whatever it was that somebody didn't like about themselves, the people transformed. And they transformed in ways that really had nothing to do with what he had actually done. In some cases, he felt like the people didn't really need the surgery to start with, that they didn't have as much of an issue as they felt like they did. Maybe they thought their nose was too big or, their chin not strong enough or whatever the case may be. But these people were determined that they needed to have this surgery. And what he saw is that after these people had surgery to repair, these things that they thought were imperfect about themselves, they changed who they were. C students became A students, and people who were very shy became very outgoing. And there were all these just tremendous transformations that he witnessed. And he's trying to figure it out. He's like, how in the world, why is it that when I fix somebody's nose, they can become an A student, or they can, become very outgoing and confident in their speaking? And he knew he didn't do anything to really change their brain. But he realized over time that what he had really done is help reshape their self-image. He reshaped the stories they were telling themselves. They were telling themselves that they were ugly or that nobody would like them, or, they would tie even back to that they weren't very smart. And so it's just an amazing thing to think that the thoughts that we allow into our heads day in and day out, they shape the way we interact with our world. And he even went further to find that as these people viewed things, there were other benefits to mental imagery and doing positive mental imagery. What he further found is that there were other benefits to not just positive mental imagery for your self-image, but for other areas as well. And it turns out that and we kind of accept this today, and there's some science behind it about positive mental imagery and having a really vivid thought about a situation and putting yourself into it. In the book, Dr. Maltz talks about the fact that they had a study done with 3 groups of people, and they were trying to improve free throw shooting. So they had one group shoot free throws using their physical body to do it. They had one group do nothing, and then they had a third group practice mentally for the same period of time that the people who were doing it physically practiced. And a week later, they came back and they compared the results. And it's been a long time since I read the book, so I don't remember all the numbers exactly. But the difference between the group who actually shot free throws and the difference between the group that just imagined they shot free throws was very minimal. So it was pretty shocking, but just vividly imagining yourself doing something changed the way these people were able to interact with their world. So that's important, not just for free throw shooting, but for other areas of our lives as well. Right now, I'm listening to a book called The Way of the Seal by Mark Divine. I've been amazed as I've listened to this book, and I'm probably only about halfway through it right now, how much he talks about using positive mental imagery and how much the SEALs do that to practice their missions, practice other areas of their lives. It doesn't just happen to be going on a mission to extract a target or whatever. It can be used in lots of other ways. And he talks about how important it's been to him in his business life since he's come out of the Navy SEALs and how it's helped him to move the needle in his life and to keep himself performing at the highest levels. If you need to really change your perception of yourself, and if you don't feel like today you're a person of excellence, what I'm going to encourage you to do is to take that time and to get quiet and to vividly imagine yourself being the person that you want yourself to be. If you want to be the kind of person who doesn't have any debt, imagine very vividly what it would feel like to walk around a home that you own outright, to drive a car that doesn't have any payments on it, to be funding your child's education, to be funding your own retirement, and really vividly see yourself in that space and do it often. Really put yourself in there, really think about how it feels, and the results will come. If you can believe it, then start to take action on it, then you'll get the results. But if you don't believe it can happen, then you'll never take that first step. And that's really the key. Is I can tell you, and in this podcast and in my blog, I've told you the steps to take to buy a cash car. And really the steps themselves aren't terribly difficult. It's not rocket science. It's pretty straightforward stuff. It's being aware of your environment. It's thinking things through, trusting your gut, and you don't have to have that much experience. You don't have to be an expert because you're going to take that car to a mechanic who is an expert who's going to check it out for you. If you follow those steps, then you will wind up more often than not with a car that's going to serve you very well. And when you do that, then that's going to change your life because then you're not going to have those car payments, and you can use those to, fund your next cash car, to start saving for retirement or college or whatever else is important for you. Maybe, living your dream to start a new career, whatever it is. Debt enslaves us. And really, I don't like really using the word slavery quite as much, because people who go into slavery, they don't have a choice. They're not given a choice. But indentured servants make a choice, and they choose to go into slavery. And that's really the position you're in if you're in debt. You're an indentured servant to that thing. So you're an indentured servant to your car, to your house. And oh, by the way, when it comes to a house, I am as well. Those are the choices we make. And we need to make them with more intentionality, with more clarity. I know that I'm an indentured servant to my house, but I know this place is going to, more likely than not, go up in value, and it's going to be a blessing to me in the long run. That car, it may be a blessing to me in terms of transportation, but financially, it's going to be a disaster for me and my household. It's going to cost me way more to have a new car than what it's worth to me. And it's going to cost you way more than it's worth to you. And we can all point to special circumstances. Everybody's got an excuse as to why they can't drive a cash car. And most of them just don't hold water. Most of them are just people making excuses for why, they don't want to take the time and effort to change. Well, I'm encouraging you in this episode to look at yourself, figure out what your definition is of being a person of excellence, and start taking steps that way. And again, maybe the first step is just doing the visualization to help you think about what that would look like for you in your life. And then once you know what it looks like, realize that you can have that. You can be that person and start taking the steps necessary to do it. It'll take discipline. You'll have to rewire your habits. And there's lots of information about how to do that. And maybe I'll talk about some of those things in future episodes. But right now, just start with those first steps. Figure out what excellence looks like for you. Start doing some positive mental imagery around it. Start really thinking about and feeling what it would be like to sit down in a house that you own outright, or sit down behind the wheel of a car that you've paid cash for. It's going to get you from point A to B to reliably, and it's going to allow you to take the car payments, whatever they are, $300 a month, $400 a month, $500 a month, $600 a month, $700 a month, and put those back into your life. What would your life look like if you were able to take that much money every month and put it back into your life? The mindset that you have, the actions that you take, they will get you there. I have no doubt that all of you can do it. I've been able to do it, and I believe you can do it. So I really appreciate you guys listening to this episode. I hope you take away the opportunity that you have in your life. None of us can change our past. We've all made mistakes. Maybe we didn't come from a background that we wanted to come from. But starting today, as you're listening to this, just know that tomorrow is tomorrow. Your tomorrow is your tomorrow because of the choices you made today. So if you want a different tomorrow, then change your choices today. All right. So with that, I'm going to move on to my next topic, which is I've got 2 speaking engagements. You can check those out on my website. On the right-hand side, you'll see that I'm speaking at the podcast movement in August, and I'm speaking at FinCon Expo 14 in New Orleans in September. And I would really love for any of my listeners who would be around to come out there and shake my hand, and I would just love to connect with you guys. Also, at the end of this month, I've got a book coming out, and that's going to be The Cash Car Solution: How to Escape Debt, Drive for Less, and Invest in Yourself. So I'm really looking forward to that coming out. Lastly, in wrapping up here, I want to say that I really appreciate the ratings and reviews. I've started to get a few more, so I appreciate those of you going out there. It means a lot to me and the show when you subscribe or give a rating and review. And again, I've had an uptick of those in the last few weeks, and I really appreciate it. I'm currently, as of my last check, up to 41 ratings and reviews. And when I get to 50, I'll be giving away the Dave Ramsey, Rachel Cruz book, Smart Money, Smart Kids. And again, that's an autographed copy that was autographed by both Dave and Rachel. So really looking forward to giving that away once I hit the 50 rating and review mark. And I'm not that far away now. So get out there and do that, and you'll have a chance to win the book. I want to thank you guys for listening to the show. It means so much to me that you would take the time to give me 20 or 30 minutes to speak into your life and to let you know my thoughts and really the impact that the car you drive has on you. It's not something I hear being talked about really anywhere else. And it's pretty shocking to me that it's not. The average household has about the same amount of college debt as they do auto debt. And somehow college debt is a big crisis in our country, but auto debt isn't. So not sure I can close the equation on that. But anyway, it means a lot to me that you let me speak into your life on a weekly basis. So I'm going to close the show here. Thank you again so much for listening. I really appreciate every listener. You guys mean a lot to me. I really do want to help you guys buy a cash car and kick auto debt to the curb. So in the meantime, just remember, love you guys. Take care, and God bless.
The podcast movement is coming to Dallas, Texas this August. The only national podcasting conference of 2014 will feature 2 days and over 40 speakers. All that's missing is you. Learn more and buy tickets at podcastmovement.com.
Are you going to be there? I will.